Hi, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. And wow, this is our Valentine's Day where we dedicate our mind to thinking with God. We're tired of trying to think against God, which is what ego thinking is. And I can't think of a better Valentine's Day gift than to open our mind up and realize that our thoughts we think with God. That's what's real. That's what's true. That's what's innocent and loving and joyful, peaceful. And that's what we want. We want a Valentine's gift that is eternal. And we're letting go of the temporal thoughts of the ego, of the past and the future. So today's workbook lesson from Jesus in A Course in Miracles is lesson 45. God is the mind with which I think. Today's idea holds the key to what your real thoughts are. They are nothing that you think, just as nothing that you think you see is related to vision in any way. There is no relationship between what is real and what you think is real. Nothing that you think or your real thoughts resemble your real thoughts in any respect. Nothing that you think you see bears any resemblance to what vision will show you. You think with the mind of God. Therefore, you share your thoughts with Him as He shares His with you. They are the same thoughts because they are thought by the same mind. To share is to make alike or to make one. Nor do the thoughts you think with the mind of God leave your mind, because thoughts do not leave their source. Therefore, your thoughts are in the mind of God as you are. They are in your mind as well, where He is. As you are part of His mind, so are your thoughts part of His mind. Where then are your real thoughts? Today we will attempt to reach them. We will have to look for them in your mind because that is where they are. They must still be there because they cannot have left their source. What is thought by the mind of God is eternal, being part of creation. Our 3 5-minute practice periods for today will take the same general form that we used in applying yesterday's idea. We will attempt to leave the unreal and seek for the real. We will deny the world in favor of truth. We will not let the thoughts of the world hold us back. We will not let the beliefs of the world tell us that what God would have us do is impossible. Instead, we will try to recognize that only what God would have us do is possible. We will also try to understand that only what God would have us do is what we want to do. And we will also try to remember that we cannot fail in doing what He would have us do. There is every reason to feel confident that we will succeed today. It is the will of God. Begin the exercises for today by repeating the idea to yourself, closing your eyes as you do so. Then spend a fairly short period in thinking a few relevant thoughts of your own, keeping the idea in mind. After you have added some 4 or 5 thoughts of your own to the idea, repeat it again and tell yourself gently, "My real thoughts are in my mind. I would like to find them." Then try to go past all the unreal thoughts that cover the truth in your mind and reach to the eternal. Under all the senseless thoughts and mad ideas with which you have cluttered up your mind are the thoughts that you thought with God in the beginning. They are there in your mind now, completely unchanged. They will always be in your mind exactly as they always were. Everything you have thought since then will change, but the foundation on which it rests is wholly changeless. It is this foundation toward which the exercises for today are directed. Here is your mind joined with the mind of God. Here are your thoughts one with His. For this kind of practice, only one thing is necessary. Approach it as you would an altar dedicated in heaven to God the Father and to God the Son. For such is the place you are trying to reach. You will probably be unable as yet to realize how high you are trying to go. Yet even with the little understanding you have already gained, you should be able to remind yourself that this is no idle game, but an exercise in holiness and an attempt to reach the kingdom of heaven. In the shorter exercise periods for today, try to remember how important it is to you to understand the holiness of the mind that thinks with God. Take a minute or two as you repeat the idea throughout the day to appreciate your mind's holiness. Stand aside, however briefly, from all thoughts that are unworthy of Him whose host you are, and thank Him for the thoughts He is thinking with you. God is the mind with which I think. This is God's Valentine's Day gift for us. Remember, you think only the thoughts you think with God. God is the mind with which I think. These are my real thoughts. These are my real thoughts. My real thoughts are in my mind. I would like to find them. Yes. And to support us in our beautiful deep dive today, I typed into the Course in Miracles search program, think with God. And Jesus says in chapter 1, miracles are examples of right thinking, aligning your perception with truth as God created it. So this is making way for the full embrace of the real thoughts, the eternal thoughts. Miracles are examples of right thinking, aligning your perceptions with truth as God created it. Search sincerely for what you have done and left undone accordingly, and then change your mind to think with God's. That was from chapter 4. Chapter 5, I said before that you must learn to think with God. Chapter 7, to think like God is to share His certainty of what you are, and to create like Him is to share the perfect love He shares with you. Chapter 7, healing then is a way of approaching knowledge by thinking in accordance with the laws of God and recognizing their universality. And then we have our lesson for today. God is the mind with which I think. How beautiful. And also to help us out, we have from chapter 12, section 3, the investment in reality. And he's really telling us to go into our mind and be aware of the mind of God and the mind we share with God. Paragraph 5, he says, salvation is for the mind and it is attained through peace. This is the only thing that can be saved and the only way to save it. Any response other than love rises from a confusion about the what and the how of salvation, and this is the only answer. So again, very simply, salvation is for the mind and it is attained through peace. This is the only thing that can be saved and the only way to save it. The sleeping mind is what's in need of salvation. Then paragraph number 7, if only the loving thoughts of God's Son are the world's reality, the real world must be in his mind. His insane thoughts, too, must be in his mind, but an internal conflict of this magnitude he can't tolerate. A split mind is endangered, and the recognition that it encompasses completely opposed thoughts within itself is intolerable. Therefore, the mind projects the split, not the reality. Everything you perceive as the outside world is merely your attempt to maintain your ego identification, for everyone believes that identification is salvation. Yet, consider what has happened, for thoughts do have consequences to the thinker. You have become at odds with the world as you perceive it because you think it is antagonistic to you. This is a necessary consequence of what you have done. You have projected outward what is antagonistic to what is inward, and therefore you would have to perceive it this way. That is why you must realize that your hatred is in your mind and not outside it, before you can get rid of it, and why you must get rid of it before you can perceive the world as it really is. So there we go. That's the context of why I must accept the lesson for today. God is the mind with which I think. If I'm to know the power of the mind, if I'm to know the love that is within the mind of God and the love in the mind of Christ, then I must think with God. I must see that these are my real thoughts, and the perceptual world is just a reflection of my mind as I begin to let go of all unreal thoughts, all thoughts of past and all thoughts of future. So this is our Valentine's Day preparation, really. We're starting to realize that the love we speak of on Valentine's Day, ultimately it has to be the love of God. It has to be the love of our source, because that is love. Love is universal. Love is without beginning or end. Love is eternal. Love, as it says in Corinthians, love does not possess. It's kind, it's gentle, it's all encompassing, it's all inclusive. That's what makes it wonderful. That's what makes love love. Also, we remember that love is a law without an opposite. So when we look at what goes for Valentine's Day in the world, named after Saint Valentine, we really have to see that love is not romantic. It's beyond the romantic. The romantic can get into the specialness of bodies and persons and time and possession and ownership. Oh, none of these things have anything to do with love. This Valentine's Day, let's give the universal gift of agape love, the love of everyone and everything, because it comes from our source, our creator. It is the one love. There are not many kinds of love. There's only one love, and that is the love of God. It's abstract, it's universal, it has no limits whatsoever. There's no rules or opposites to it. There's no conditions. Love exists without conditions. It's coming from God, and God has no limits and conditions. So we can see that the ego has just tried to make of love something that is not love. It's tried to make up a substitute for love, as the Madonna song says on the Ray of Light CD. Substitute for love, a substitute for love. The ego and everything that it projects. You can think of in relationships. I love my father, mother, sister, brother. I love my dog or my cat. I love my house, or I love my fill in the blank, my bed, my kitchen. I love, you could fill in sports teams names. You can fill in car names. You can fill in city names. These are not love. These are very, very, very dim reflections when they're spoken in that way, because they're very specific. And love is all encompassing. Love is all inclusive. It doesn't have categories. It doesn't fit into any boxes. It's without a box, without a category. It's limitless. It radiates from God and from Christ to all. It radiates without limit. And again, the lesson for today is saying God is the mind with which I think, and my thoughts and God thoughts must be the real thoughts. And yet they are nothing that you think, just as nothing that you think you see is related to vision, to Christ's vision in any way. There is no relationship between what is real and what you think is real. Nothing that you think are your real thoughts resemble your real thoughts in any respect. So this is where we start to realize, wow, when Jesus says it is with your thoughts alone that we must work, he means it, because he's really saying it is with your mind alone that we must work. Even though you believe in all the aspects of time and space, even though you have identified with these images that you call bodies and houses and cars and streets and cities, countries, planets, galaxies, fill in the blank. Even though you've identified with the form and the specifics of form, love is beyond. When Jesus said, before Abraham was, I am, the I amness that's prior to time and space is what love is. And that's why Jesus is teaching us in the lesson. You just have to sink down and let go of every thought and every belief that you ever believed in. You have to empty your mind of all these beliefs and all these thoughts, these time-space thoughts. These are not eternal. Time and space are temporary, and they seem to have a beginning and they will seem to have an end, but even that is irrelevant, because what's real and true is prior to these time-space thoughts. So we're practicing praying today and attempting to reach our real thoughts, the thoughts I think with God. As we progress along these lessons, we will actually come back to this beautiful thought, God is the mind with which I think, and it'll take different forms. And one of the forms that will come in many repetitions is, my mind holds only what I think with God. You see how this is not an attempt to manifest. This is not an attempt to visualize in form, because there is no visual form to reality. God, abstract love, is the mind with which I think, and my mind, which is abstract love, holds only what I think with God. So the thoughts of God and the thoughts of Christ are the same. They are the same loving extensions, and we call it creation. It's not creation in the worldly attempt of creativity or creating paintings or songs or creating designs. You can't ask ChatGPT to think with the mind of God, but you can see for yourself that you only think with the mind of God. And these thoughts are not time-space thoughts, so that's why ChatGPT can't help you with that one. ChatGPT is just programmed from time-space thoughts, and And the mind of God is not time-space thoughts. They are eternal. They will last forever. And the real world is just the reflection of these beautiful thoughts. And so there are no enemies. There is no conflict. There is no war. There's no competition in the real world. The real world is just a beautiful reflection of the thoughts that I think with God. There is no division. There is no compartmentalization. There are no categories. There are no more grievances, no more resentments. It's just a reflection of divinity. That's what it means about heaven and earth. The distinction will pass away when we come into the awareness that who we are is the kingdom of heaven, and there is nothing else. That's a all-embracing, all-inclusive thought. The kingdom of heaven is not some abstract future ideal or some abstract past memory. It's a present memory. It's remembering what's real and true right now and always has been real and true right now. That's what heaven is. You can just almost feel yourself wanting to sing and dance in the joy and the glee of heaven is here, heaven is now. So we don't have to look for heaven in form. When we forgive the world, when we see that their mind is all-encompassing and mind ideas leave not their source, then you just reside as a beautiful, perfect, abstract, loving thought, the Christ, in the mind of God. That's reality. That's the fact of things. That's the joy. That's the joy of everything. Yes. So, this Valentine's Day, let it be a reminder. My mind holds only what I think with God, and God is the mind with which I think. You can see it's all about thoughts. You don't have to be so concerned about these projections called behaviors. You don't have to be so concerned about the projections that we call the things and objects and images of this world. And in the end, you don't have to be so concerned with the image maker or the inventor of this fictitious world, because deep within, the light within, we understand is eternal. And it is prior to this crazy belief in miscreation. It's actually impossible to misuse the power of God and the light of God. God didn't will that love would be miscreated or misused. God's will for us is perfect happiness. We abide in love in God's will, and nothing else can, whom God has joined, let no man put asunder. There are no ways to divide what is indivisible, what is whole and complete and unified. So what a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful lesson. So thank you so much. I wish you all the love of God to shower and shine and share on this beautiful Valentine's Day. And then you can make your heart, but it's an eternal love heart. That's what we're doing. It's beyond candy. It's beyond flowers. It's beyond a day. It's beyond the 14th of February, way beyond time and space. So let's rejoice. Let's use this backdrop of Valentine's Day as a symbol to shine our love, share our love, extend, radiate, send the blessing of love to all, because everything is included in God's love. Have a beautiful, beautiful day.